Hey, what's up, Brotherhood Channel? It's your Friday guy Kai here, and this week we're talking about like love and labels and sexuality and stuff for like our partners. Last week we did like our own. This week we're talking about more of partners or potential partners, and kind of like same as last week. I'm pretty single, so I don't have like a partner to come talk or anything like that, or to even really talk about. But I can talk about my past partners and also just kind of how I feel about that and stuff. So in the last video, I think I did mention that I dated a guy who identifies as gay after I transitioned. Well, it's like as I was transitioning, but it was like after I had socially transitioned and was on testosterone. And I think, did I have top surgery yet? I don't think I had top surgery yet. Maybe. I mean, I'm still in contact with him, and it was so like, yeah. So I was like, still, I wouldn't have said I was like as far in transition as I am now, but I was like in the process of transitioning and identifying as male in my everyday life. For my ex girlfriend that I dated in high school, I believe the last time I talked to her, which was like a couple years ago, about sexuality, she said she identified as pansexual, I believe. So I was identifying outwardly as female just because I didn't know there were any other options, and I really didn't know much about trans identities at that point in time. So I identified as female outwardly because that's what I learned and thought. So she dated. So our relationship was what would be like a lesbian relationship, seen as a lesbian relationship, basically. But she dated a guy before me. She dated a guy after me. I believe now she's in a relationship with a girl. So I already knew that she was like not really straight or like just straight or just a lesbian. Like I already knew that she was either like bisexual or something. Um, and again, that was like it really didn't matter to me. If someone likes me and I like them, the labels really don't matter to me. Not to mention that labels are just kind of the way I see them. Like they're very limiting. They don't always um, explain the situations well. They don't like every situation can't fit into these boxes of the sexuality labels, and I also see the sexuality labels that we have as very binary. Um, just the way they're all set up, and even like the idea of labeling sexuality, I see it as a very binary thing. So those they really don't mean anything to me. I don't really care how my partners identify, or how they label themselves, if they label themselves at all, and I just kind of go based off more like how we interact with each other, how we feel about each other. Like that's all that I think matters. I know there's always this kind of talk within the trans male community, the trans masculine community about sorry, Ooh, um, need to blow my nose. There's always this talk about like uh, dating someone who identifies as a lesbian, what that means, and I think that there's so many situations where this could happen. I mean, you could be in a lesbian relationship and then one person realizes they're trans or is ready to come out as trans, or you know grows within themselves and starts identifying as trans, and then what happens if your partner identifies as a lesbian but then they're in a relationship with you who now identifies as a man? That's one situation. Another situation is meeting someone who identifies as a lesbian, finding out you guys work really well together, and then uh, like really liking each other, and then wanting to date, but that person identifies as a lesbian. So here's how I kind of see those situations. Again, I see labels as like not always very good at explaining situations or not covering every situations. not everything fits into like a certain label or a certain box. That's basically how I see things. So for me personally, in either one of those situations, I would be completely fine with my partner identifying as a lesbian as long as they acknowledge that with me, they're in a relationship that is viewed and seen as heterosexual. Um, what they personally identified doesn't bother me. I wouldn't really, just for my own dysphoria and my own like self confidence, I wouldn't really want them going around telling people, yeah, I'm a lesbian, and then being like in a relationship with me, like me standing there and then being like, oh, I'm a lesbian, and then I'm like, they're like, oh, but you're dating, that person who is male because I pass as male now very well, or even if I didn't pass, like identifying as male, it could be triggering basically to my dysphoria for my partner to be going around saying they're lesbian and being in a relationship with me. Other than that, though, they like acknowledge that they are like in a heterosexual viewed relationship, in a relationship with someone who identifies as male, and is respectful of that, and like so like maybe in public, maybe with other people, they don't go around saying they're a lesbian or something. But if they personally do identify themselves as a lesbian, if that's the label that they feel most comfortable with, then I'm okay with that. I would just want them to respect me and my identity. That's the most important thing. However, they label themselves personally does not matter to me. Like, that's just, yeah. So, we would probably have to have those discussions about how do we handle things in public? How do we handle, you when you go and whatever, if you're on like social media, like anything you have on there, like how do we deal with this? Um, and kind of finding something that feels comfortable with us, uh, comfortable for both of us. But yeah, I don't see labels as like important. I guess like I don't think that someone who identifies as a gay man could never ever find themselves really liking a girl. Um, and I mean, some gay men will never like a girl in that way. Um, but I don't see that being like the end of it. Like, I don't, I think there's always like kind of exceptions and things that happen and things that people learn more about themselves and all these things. So, um, yeah, I hope that didn't come off sounding wrong. Like, it's not that it's not like someone comes up and tells me they're gay and I'm like, oh, you're not really gay. You probably still might find a girl you like or something. Not like that at all. I just don't think that the label is as important as how that person experiences the world. Like I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. Is the label doesn't matter as much to me as does the connection or whatever around the people. It's just finding something that works for that particular couple. Um, Labels, if any, that work for that particular couple in whatever situations, and yeah, I hope that made some kind of sense. I feel like it was kind of, labels don't really make sense to me, so it's kind of hard to talk about labels in a way that makes sense. Um, but I don't know. I just view them as boxes, and not everything's gonna fit perfectly. Or like, those little toys that have all the shapes, like those little baby toys that have all the shapes, and you put the little shapes in the holes that have the same shape. Like I just feel like that's kind of like life, and we have these shapes, and we have these little things that fit into these, and maybe some do fit really well, but I feel like there's also all these little shapes that don't fit into any of the holes, and maybe some fit in not perfectly, and maybe some don't fit in at all. Um, but that's kind of how I see life. Like, we do have labels and names for things, but even like feelings, like language is just like a made up thing we made up as humans. There are so many feelings that people can have that don't have words for them. There are certain languages that have words for things that other languages don't. So at the end of the day, we do our best to explain things, to put things in categories, but not everything always fits. Not everything always has a good explanation or a way to express it. That's just how I feel about things, and sexuality included. This video is already 10 minutes long, so I'm a peace out, but I'll see you all soon. As always, stay strong, stay safe, and stay you. I love you all. Peace.